What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and, well, I guess this one isn't directly related to Retro Yu-Gi-Oh! It's more related to the channel, and me specifically. But I just had to show this off in a video because it was a lot of work, and a fan put this together, and it was really, really awesome. So big shouts to Steven Jurosevic for compiling this big spreadsheet that goes through every single video that I put on the channel, and it tabulates my win and loss rates. So you can see here, we got this Excel sheet, we got the format on the side, we got the date the video was uploaded, we got the video title, the deck that I played, the type of deck it was, and then how many wins, how many losses I had, the people I played against as well, and it goes all the way to the present day, all the way from the very beginning up to the most recent video here. And this is just such a cool sort of compilation to sort of see, both how I've grown as a player, where my strengths and weaknesses lie, and also just my general win percentage. How much do I win on the channel? I'm probably going to title this video like, showing mathematically like how good of a duelist I am or something like that, just to clickbait it up. But realistically, I do want to get this disclaimer out of the way. You can't necessarily like prove mathematically whether someone's a good or bad duelist or anything like that. And also, you can't really quantify people that way, because I do think that different people are skilled at different elements of the game. In different formats, those elements might be better than others. And so, a player who knows when to, push and get aggressive and stuff might be better suited to more aggressive formats, whereas a more control-oriented player might be more suited for those formats, right? And I'm not going to say that one player is better than the other. It just depends on the format they're in, right? And so that will fall through to the results here. And again, you can't necessarily quantify people on how good they are just based on win rate and stuff. There are a lot of factors that go into it. Although win rate can definitely sort of help to figure out, like if someone is good or not, right? Like, if someone is a good player, they likely will have a better win rate because they're a good player. So they're going to be winning more of their games than not. So, I just want to get that grain of salt out of the way. And I'm not using this to say I'm an excellent duelist or a terrible duelist. I'm just using this as a bit of an interesting thing to sort of analyze my own dueling skills and see what that means for me as a duelist, and also just, what I want to prove on in the future. But anyways, we've got all the tabulation of everything on this tab here, this sheet here. But also there's sort of a sheet that sort of tabulates it all together in the win-loss tally sheet here. So from this sheet, you can see that my overall win percentage in this square here is actually 58.88% with 295 wins and 206 losses. So this goes all the way up to my most recent video where I dueled, which is the Monarchs video for Chimeritic format. And also, this doesn't count like individual games within a match, it just counts matches. So, if someone wants to go in and tabulate further the amount of individual games and matches I win or lose, then that's another thing you can do. But I do think that overall the matches are generally what matters, because certain formats, going first or second is going to be more advantageous for you or not. And so there will just be some individual games within a match that are just completely out of the player's control. So generally matches are a better way to sort of tabulate this thing than individual games. But if someone does want to do that as well, they can do that if they want to. But you see on this sheet here, we've got a list of the opponents and how many games I've won versus lost against them, including their win percentages, or my win percentages, that is. And this is kind of interesting. If you want, we can like sort based on, this is sort of like alphabetical order, but we can actually sort it based on, smallest to largest. So you can see my win percentage, Alpha 2 is the sort of most difficult opponent for me. They've won 3 games, and I've won none. So, against Alpha 2, I'm the weakest apparently. And then going from there, you get into some more games here. And like, while Alpha 2 I am the weakest against technically, because we've only played 3 games together, it is a bit of, I don't want to say less of an indicator of skill gap or something, but I do want to say that like the best way to measure this stuff is like over long instances of games. So for instance, I played 9 games against Air Falco, and they've won 6 of them. I've won 3. So I've only got a 33% win rate against them, which is higher than Alpha 2, but I've also played more games against them, right? So, that might be a better metric there. But, some frequent guests on the channel, like Aratos here, I've won 18 games, lost 33. So I've only got a 35.29% win percentage against them. I think they're probably the most difficult opponent that I've got to face here frequently on the channel. Other big names, Dump Truck, I've got total of 54 games against them. They've won 28. I've won 28. They've won 26. So I've got a slightly over 50% win percentage against them. But, it's neck and neck. And a lot of these are neck and neck. And it's just kind of interesting. I'm not trying to use these to say like, oh, look, I'm better than these duelists or worse than these duelists. I'm just pointing out interesting facts here, right? And also, you've got to consider as well, when we play these videos, there's a wide variety of factors that go into the games that I get, right? These generally aren't in official competitive tournaments that I'm getting these games from. So oftentimes, either I'm bringing a janker deck or my opponent could be bringing a janker deck and stuff like that, or we're like not taking it as seriously as we might in a full competitive environment. So this isn't to sort of like tabulate and say like, oh, in a competitive tournament environment, if, B-Sox is facing off against Kesha YGO official, they've got a 57.89% chance of winning, right? That's not what this is saying, right? This is just saying, over the course of my videos, these are how the percentages shook out. So I think it's very, very interesting to see all these percentages and just go through and, just point out some frequent names or just, see some names that have mainly appeared like once or twice, but see, how those games go. I just think it's kind of fun to look through that. But I think the more interesting statistic for me personally, and this is just me personally because, this is related to my win rate overall, but it's checking the formats themselves because Steven Jurosevich also broke up the sort of formats and saw my win percentage in each of these formats here. So that's also a very interesting metric to go by. And here it's sorted in chronological order, which I do think is generally the best way to sort these things. If you want to just show off like over time, the formats that I've gone through here are how they break down. But if we want, we can also sort the win percentage here just by going here and, sorting smallest to large. So we can see that my worst format by far is a DCR format. I've only played 2 matches in it and I've lost both. So, 0% win rate there. But every other format, I've got at least 1 win under my belt. JAR is my next worst, which is a 20% win rate there. I've only won 1 game, lost 4. So, that is a bit of an interesting one as well. These 2 formats are both sort of like, not really official formats. They're sort of hypothetical formats that, we just wanted to play to fill in some gaps in the timeline. So, you could argue that those don't really count as a valid thing because I'm sure I'll have some at the higher end where for instance, like Silly Snake, we have played 3 games and I've won all 3. Silly Snake is again, another like hypothetical format. So who knows how that would actually go. Same with PGD and IOC. Like these are all sort of formats that no one really plays for good reason because they're either like completely unbalanced or there's too similar to other things. So no one really puts a lot of time and effort into it. But also, when I show off these hypothetical formats, I'm often showing off what makes them broken. So I'm playing a very overpowered deck. And my opponent might be playing a similarly overpowered deck, but it's not like some of the other formats where like I do play more rogue strategies to sort of show off what you can do in the format, even if they're not the best thing around. So for instance, Fiber format, I have a less than 50% win rate here. I've won 7 matches in Fiber format on the channel and lost 8. But, if you look at the Fiber format tournaments that have happened, I've actually won, I think 2 or 3 Fiber format tournaments. And those were they were relatively tiny compared to like a Goat or Edison tournament, but those were still like, bigger events than Fiber's had in the past. And so I'm not a bad Fiber duelist by any means, but I do think that this does sort of like misrepresent my win rate a little bit because it's focusing just on the videos, right? And that's not necessarily a misrepresentation of my win rate overall in a lot of these things. It's just like whenever you look at statistics, you've got to take it, with a grain of salt and with the context of where this comes from, right? So, this is my videos and my win rates over the videos, which I actually think is a more fun metric to look at than just my win rate in general. But so you've got to understand that these are in the videos, not necessarily what I'd be playing in real life. And so, that will color the results overall. But still, some very interesting statistics here. Yugi Kaiba format, I'm actually 50-50 with wins and losses. 26 wins, 26 losses. That's a fair amount of games as well. And so exactly 50% there, which is very, very cool. Now, you could potentially read a 50% win rate in Yugi Kaiba and be like, oh, 50% win rate, so it's a complete coin toss format, right? But I don't necessarily think that's the case because, again, I do play some rogue decks in these formats as well. So the 50% here is probably not meaning that, like, whenever I enter a game, it's a coin toss whether I win or lose. It really does depend on the deck and also the deck that my opponent is playing as well. But so there's a lot of interesting statistics here. And you can also see sort of like over time, goes on, which formats I've played the most. And that could maybe equate to, how much I enjoy these formats as well. For instance, like Warrior format, one of my favorite formats of the DM era, I played 27 wins and 16 losses. So that all told, that's 43 games total. I love Warrior format, so it makes sense why I've gotten so many games in this. Critter format, I also got a ton of games in because I love that format. Yu-Gi Kaiba, I was just starting out, so I really wanted to, go super, super in-depth in these formats, and I made a ton of videos for Yu-Gi Kaiba, so that explains why there's so much here. Same with like STYK, which is another one of those formats that's a hypothetical, but back when I started the channel, I was like, okay, I'm going to go super in-depth in these hypothetical formats as well. As time went on, I shifted away from that because I realized it wasn't really what people wanted to see. And also, it was kind of counterproductive a lot of the times because a lot of the decks that I show off in the hypothetical formats would just have more official versions in the official formats. So there wasn't really a reason to do that. But, again, everything is colored by context. And so it is kind of interesting to just see over time how that sort of thing shifts. Also another thing too is Chaos format, 11 wins, 11 losses. That is a bit more of a coin toss format, I will admit. But again, sometimes you got to play some jank decks in there as well, which might indicate that, jank has a potential shot in Chaos, but I don't necessarily know how much of those 11 wins come from just me playing pure Chaos decks or how much plays from like more jank decks. We can actually go to the duel logs section over here and go to where I start really playing Chaos a lot of the time to sort of see how my wins go. So my first Chaos games, I won 2 games, and that was playing Chaos Control. Earth Aggro, actually, I won 3 games with here, over in this section right there. Chaos Control, again, 3 games. Burn, I lost twice, so maybe that's a sign of either I'm not a good Burn player, or potentially, like, Burn just isn't necessarily it in that format. Yato Combo, I won 3 games, lost 1. But, Yato Combo is basically just a Chaos deck, but also it does have Yata in the deck, and it's trying to max out on the chances of pulling off the Yata lock. And so I kind of count this as just Chaos wins there. Water is not a good deck in that format, so I lost 2. I got 1 Science FDK game on the channel, not counting test hands because that's sort of divorced from actual games themselves, and I lost that 1. I don't necessarily think that things like Scientific FTK and Empty Jar or like DMOC FTK, if those are the best games out there. And you can see I actually lost 4 games in the DMOC FTK combo video there. So yeah, I mean, you can see sort of that like Chaos is still a very good deck, but something like, Earth Aggro, I did win 3 games with that. And against like not bad players. Like I was playing against Kesha, who, as we see in the win-loss tallies thing here, I've got like a pretty even win rate. Like it's only 57.89%. So they're a very good player, or at least very similar to me in like skill level here, based on these results. So, that is a deck that could potentially see more play in the future and potentially do better. But again, this is more through like a personal lens on my part because, it is filtered through my videos, right? It's filtered through me as a player, and I vibe with certain deck types and strategies a bit more than other ones. So, don't take this as like gospel. Don't take this as like, well, Ben won all these games with this deck, so this deck is very good. It may just be more suited to my playstyle, or it could be also what my opponent was playing and things like that. But either way, I thought this was a very fascinating look at these like sort of history of the channel, honestly, and just seeing over time, what it all leads up to here in the compilation of my ultimate dueling ability. And I'd say it's 60% win rate. I'm happy with that, especially given some of the decks that I've played. So I'm pretty happy with my skills as a duelist. But, and honestly, like I was expecting too, that I would be able to look at the formats here and see like, okay, my worst formats are the ones where I need to do this sort of thing, or my best formats are the ones where I need to do this sort of thing, right? And I feel like, cutting out the hypothetical formats, which are kind of just like a bit sacky. If you look at like the actual legit formats that I'm worst at here, Fiber's on there, Yu-Gi Kaiba's on there, Chaos is on there, Chaos Return, etc. Like, I don't necessarily think there's like a connective tissue between those formats as much. So that's kind of interesting as well. I'm sure if we got a ton more samples here, then we'd be able to find a bigger trend, especially like if we sort of had control decks based on like, not control decks in like that's what they're doing, but like basically you had a baseline deck that I was using in some of these formats, and then potentially I did play decks that are more suited to my style or not, who knows. But yeah, there'd be a lot of interesting things to potentially do if we wanted to make like a more like scientific study of this. But I do think that like, again, the fun of this is seeing it on screen here and just seeing like how it turns out. I think it's very fascinating, and it's sort of cool that we made enough videos here to actually compile this big document here. And again, big shout out to Steven Yurosvik. I mean, this was a lot of work, and it's just so cool. So I love to see it. I'm planning on either putting this Excel sheet in the description of this video or importing it to Google Sheets and putting in the description of the video in case I can't upload an Excel sheet to the description. But you'll be able to, download the file there and sort of play around with it for yourself and, sort of see whatever trends that you want to do. So, yeah, but I think that this is very interesting. And I think that honestly, like if you want to build something for yourself where you go through your wins and losses and just log in a sheet as you go, it can be somewhat helpful just seeing, what you need to improve on in general and what would work for you. So I recommend, like, if you're interested in this sort of thing for your own games, just, start making it. You don't need to necessarily go back and look at every single game you've ever played and put in the sheet right away, but you just start up a sheet like now and just, whenever you win a game or lose a game, you just put it in the sheet like this and you sort of see general trends and stuff. I think it's a very interesting thing to do. But I hope that you enjoyed this video, even though it's very different from my typical video. It's like covering a different thing. It's just looking at a spreadsheet and looking at the numbers and data and stuff. But I think it was fun to do. Like, it was very touched by this. Like, it's cool to see someone put this much work into this sort of thing. And it's just fun to like look at what these videos have like led to, the community that we built, and also just the raw numbers on this spreadsheet here. So I hope you enjoyed as always. If you like this sort of thing, I don't normally make this sort of video. I generally just make videos on general retro Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you like that sort of thing, subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know what you think of these numbers down in the comments below. And let me know if you'd like to see more analyses like this in the future. I mean, calling it analysis on my part is maybe a bit too strong of a word. But, if you like this sort of thing, I can try and cook up some other things in the future related to it. But I hope that you enjoyed the video as always. If you want to play games in retro formats that are featured in the channel, head over to the YGO from Zero Discord server. That's where I get the games that get featured in these videos. So you can join this list of people over here on the side there. But I hope that you enjoyed this video as always. Big shout outs to my patrons as well. Rinswin, Porkchop, Bren Donker, Dump Truck, Tyler Compton, and GMYFS. It means a lot that you all support me this way. Encourage me to make more videos like this in the future. And again, big shout out to Steven Yurosvik, without whom this video would not be possible because we wouldn't have this sheet. And, it just is so cool that we have this thing here. So I hope that you enjoyed this video as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero and I'm signing off.